O5-9 was having a lazy morning. After all, while being a member of the O5 Council is a demanding job, it doesn't mean that you don't occasionally have off days. His schedule was clear, so he decided to catch up on some YouTube videos he'd been meaning to watch, water his plants, and play some office golf to ease off the boredom. That's when he received a strange message from O5-1 on the closed O5 Council Communications Relay Network. It read, 9. Attached are files we found last week within Site-01 Steepwell. I wouldn't trouble you with this if not for the fact that the events described herein have never occurred. Their initial creation date is approximately 50,000 years back. Please familiarize yourself with them as quickly as possible. And just like that, O5-9's lazy day had been torpedoed. He put away his golfing equipment and accessed the file. Strangely, it read, Accessing file SCP-6789 Iteration 1 30-08-1825. You can probably see the inconsistency already. 50,000 years ago and 1825 don't make for the most congruent timeline. This would definitely warrant further exploration, even if it meant eliminating his chances of a fun office golf day. The file described an anomalous presence in a room beneath the Rolander General Steel Factory in Częstochowa, Poland, where the speed of organic material growth is absurdly fast, in a manner similar to the growth stimulated by the neutralized anomaly SCP-407, also known as the Song of Genesis. However, the anomaly itself didn't concern O5-9 nearly as much as its location, Częstochowa, Poland. Perhaps not the first place on anyone's dream vacation destination list, but one of the most important anomalous locations in the world. We're gonna need to take a minute to explain a few key concepts to you, namely the concept of free ports, Esterberg, and Site-120. You see, while it is the Foundation's prerogative to secure and contain anomalies where they might intersect with humanity and thus threaten the upholding of consensus reality, there are certain places where doing so just isn't practical or possible. They're big places, sometimes on our dimensional plane, sometimes residing in others, with large and largely anomalous populations. To borrow an example from the Foundation files, picture a New York City where everyone inside is a mix of fae, aliens, animal people, magic practitioners, or the undead. A full anomalous community, permanently situated in a given location. It's too separate and secluded enough from humanity to necessitate full containment, and if we're being realistic, the Foundation couldn't contain them without a great deal of hassle anyway. A location like this is known as a nexus. However, particularly large nexuses that also act as hubs of anomalous trade and commerce are known as free ports. Free ports are a complicated situation for the SCP Foundation, in a bureaucratic sense. International and interdimensional law forbid the Foundation from intervening in the matters of free ports without proper permission. These places are highly autonomous zones, with their own internal laws and law enforcement. Free ports often exist on separate planes of existence, and can only be entered through anomalous means, meaning accidental interactions with humans from free ports are extremely unlikely. Therefore, in these special autonomous zones, the veil can be entirely lifted. One such free port is the city of Esterberg, designated SCP-5373 by the Foundation, which is a particularly special case. It's the largely entirely anomalous city that is not under Foundation control. It has a high Fae population, hence its name, which means City of the East in the Fae language. It is an immensely powerful and important place, where magic and reality bending are just parts of everyday life. And as you've probably intuited at this point, being the smart, good-looking, and charismatic fans of SCP explained, the free port of Esterberg is situated in a pocket dimension directly parallel to Częstochowa, Poland. This brings us to Site-120. SCP Foundation Częstochowian Research and Reliquary Dimensional Containment Facility, abbreviated to Site-120, is a unique location as far as Foundation facilities go. For starters, it's built on an abandoned industrial facility on top of a different anomalous nexus, SCP-5292, also known as the Library of Babel. This is a huge interdimensional library complex heavily associated with the Fae, containing a countless number of ancient volumes written in languages unknown to humankind. This feels like an apt metaphor for the primary purpose of Site-120 and its staff, bridging the gap between the Foundation and anomalous communities like the Freeport of Esterberg. and it should come as a surprise to nobody that this is one hell of a gap. The population of Esterberg largely distrusts, fears, or outright despises the SCP Foundation, given that their typical attitude to anomalies is less brotherly love and more getting blackbagged by a mobile task force and carried off to a paranormal black site. They have somewhat of a reputation for being gun-ho brutes, or jailers, as the Serpent's Hand likes to refer to them. That's why Site-120 has a very delicate diplomatic situation on its hands. And to deal with this situation, they created a specialized task force known as the Interspecies Communications Team, with 27 well-trained researchers, negotiators, and diplomats, headed by Dr. Anna Schloss. They're doing all they can to extend the anomalous olive branch to the communities within Esterberg and improve the Foundation's standing among them. So needless to say, the situation over in Częstochowa, Poland is exceedingly complicated. And as 05-9 read further through the document on SCP-6789, he just hoped that they weren't all staring down the barrel of a future diplomatic or containment snafu. Though 05-9 had no idea just how crazy everything was going to get with SCP-6789. At first, the anomaly seemed pretty straightforward. It was confined to an unlit sub-basement boiler room in the Rollander General Steel Factory. However, despite the lack of light or really any of the conditions necessary for supporting life that isn't insects or fungus, a glorious flourishing microcosm has developed down there. Flora and fauna abound and seem to be developing safely in a complete ecosystem. Workers and Foundation researchers, upon entering this area, reported hearing a low thrum similar in sound and rhythm to a heartbeat all around them, though this sound hasn't been recorded outside the claims of those who supposedly experienced it firsthand. Workers of the steel mill reported feeling a tremendous sense of calmness and wonder while inside SCP-6789. They would walk into the boiler room whenever they felt stressed between shifts and watch sprouts growing up around their feet in real time, and small animals like rabbits and hares hopping out what seemed like nothingness. It was a place of wonder, a gift from Mother Nature herself, an opportunity to feel the warmth and the rhythm of her very beating heart. However, this ran into problems when the plant growth obstructed the operations of the steel mill, shutting down its main boiler. This led to the Rollander General Steel Company pressuring one Thomas Williams, head of the technical repair team, to effectively destroy SCP-6789 and install a new boiler where it had once been. When he expressed reluctance to trample on this hallowed ground, they threatened his job and the livelihood of his family. With great pain and reluctance, he followed through with their destructive orders. During a Foundation exit interview, Williams tearfully recounted, "I didn't want to. They said they'd come after my staff, my family, cut our wages. I torched the room, tore out the old machine and put the new one in. My men hated me for it, called me a monster for what I made them do. The sounds that place made whilst it burned. I don't know what drove me to defile such a gift of nature. Greed, or fear, or both. You will let me know if anything happens down there, won't you? I need to know if it can regrow. It must be able to, right?" And in a strange twist of fate, SCP-6789 did begin to come back. And even stranger, it began to expand further, causing unchecked growth in the rooms around the boiler room. Studies at the time noted that the growth was accelerating by a pace of 0.6 meters every 24 hours. But of course, this was only the beginning. By the year 1947, the majority of the city of Częstochowa, Poland had been consumed by an ever-evolving SCP-6789. Not only had the growth rate been increasing exponentially, but the actual anomalous effects of the SCP-6789 field were becoming more varied and powerful. Plants as high as 20 meters in height were bursting out of the ground. Observers noticed significant differences between the plants within the SCP-6789 area of effect and the ones outside, suggesting the results of millions of years of evolution being achieved in a mere handful of decades. It didn't take long for 70% of the city to be consumed, leading to a mass evacuation. From a distance, the energy field of SCP-6789 is visible around the city. appearing almost like a huge translucent dome capping it from overhead, though tests have revealed that the other side of a massive energy sphere stretches beneath the Earth's crust. Being inside the energy field can be dangerous for non-anomalous civilians, as the plants have a strange memetic effect of inducing unconsciousness in anyone within a cognitive resistance value (CRV) of less than 20. This pernicious effect has resulted in the loss of almost 99% of the civilian population, though we should specify they are not dead. On the contrary, the people knocked unconscious within SCP-6789 enter a state of stasis, where their health gradually improves without the need for nutrition. A team from MTF Epsilon 3, also known as the Atypical Philosophers, was sent into the belly of the beast on a recon mission to re-establish contact with Site-120, which was one of the first areas to be taken over by the ever-expanding SCP-6789. The team members marveled at the transformed world within the energy sphere. It had been reclaimed entirely by Mother Nature, transforming it into a world that seemed at once alien and familiar. As they progressed deeper within, they couldn't help but feel an odd sense of tiredness taking over. Eventually, they reached and breached Site-120. On the inside, the site staff were cocooned in bizarre translucent pods that seemed to have a rejuvenating effect. They also couldn't help but notice the loud thrumming heartbeat that echoed throughout the facility. However, before they could successfully call in reinforcements, the memetic effects of SCP-6789 took over. Each of them collapsed to the ground, falling unconscious. To get a better look at some of the flora and fauna within SCP-6789, a Foundation researcher kept a comprehensive record of notes of some of the various plants and animals of interest she recorded within the affected area. Upon seeing a flock of several thousand flying birds, she noted, "If we can find a way to study SCP-6789's methods, we may be able to find a practical use for the anomaly. I have not seen a flock this size since my childhood from before the war. It brought back memories I thought I'd never feel again. I will speak to my superiors for more resources." After seeing a group of Eurasian brown bears hunting a herd of Thompson's gazelle, she noted, "This confirms SCP-6789 is capable of producing species foreign to Europe. It should be noted that this creates the potential for catastrophe. We can no longer comfortably predict what might come out of there." After seeing some nesting formerly extinct flightless birds known as the great auk, she wrote down, "We spotted the birds from the boat when Major Bielis, our resident ornithologist, heard a bird call she did not immediately recognize. We soon spotted the great auks on the cliffs nursing their young. This confirms SCP-6789 is capable of bringing back extinct species, but to what extent? And by what means? Could we somehow harness this power to turn back our own aging?" Upon seeing the incredible herd comprised of thousands of specimens from an extinct bovine species known as the aurochs, she noted, "Magnificent. I had thought the large mammals of Europe were all but extinct. Our expedition encountered the herd moving north along the river towards Ponzan, but we managed to intercept them and kept them within SCP-6789's exclusion zone." After seeing a series of genetically mutated kapok trees that grew so fast they destroyed the surrounding Foundation research centers, she noted, "In light of recent incidents, further expeditions into SCP-6789 have been indefinitely suspended. Sufficient information has been gathered regarding SCP-6789's capabilities and practical use. Continued research has been deemed a waste of Foundation resources. A controlled burn of the plant growth has been authorized by the High Council. Upon confirmation of the anomaly's annihilation, SCP-6789 will be reclassified as neutralized." But of course, it was never going to be that easy, was it? By the year 1989, SCP-6789 had claimed the entirety of Poland. Things had gotten so severe that the Foundation needed to use a custom-made anti-meme. In addition to mass applications of amnestics and efforts to scrub all references to the country from recorded media, to completely wipe any memory of Poland's existence from the global consciousness while they tried to solve this SCP-6789 situation. But the prospect of any such solution began to seem more and more like using a band-aid to cure a decapitation as things spiraled out of control. At first, the Foundation could curtail the growth of the 6789 area through controlled burns with thaumaturgically enhanced fire. This, however, did not impact the continued growth for long. Researchers predicted that an IK Class collapse of global civilization scenario could potentially occur in as little as 7 months. However, while these developments were all a net minus for humanity, they created wonderful opportunities for a few species that humanity had wronged in the past. The Children of the Forest, a subset of the Fae that was wiped out after the battle at the factory, and the Children of the Night, better known as SCP-1000 or Bigfoot. Surviving members of Interspecies Communications Team from Site-120 attempted to start a dialogue with these cultures forming in the ever-growing SCP-6789 area that was once Poland. However, given the incredibly fractious history between humanity and these two groups, they were not met with a warm reception. Repeated attempts to enter the domain of SCP-1000 and communicate with them were met with the following series of aggressive communique from the Children of the Night. Do not attempt to contact at the time. No reason to trust. We will respond with force. All entry into our reclaimed terrain will be understood as a violation of this request. Stop all attempts. We see your attempts. We will not warn again. Cease. Mother does not wish for us to meet with you. We therefore listen. Do as she says, or meet the consequences. It's probably clear by this point that the SCP Foundation was barking up the wrong genetically mutated kapok tree. They had burned their bridges with all these specimens with their own selfish actions, and would never again be seen as friends to them. However, some answers were provided by a Child of the Night that was at least willing to speak to them in English, even though he resented everything they stood for. He informed them that they had invoked the very wrath of Mother Nature with their terrible actions, and now they were taking revenge. In his chilling closing statement, he said, "Look what you did to us. Look what you did to the Children of the Forest. We forgave you. Your siblings gave up on fighting back, but your mother's heart is broken. She gave you life, and you showed her your true colors the moment she let you off her leash. She birthed you, yet you chose to betray her in the most disgusting way possible. Get out there and wait as Mother Nature does her job at neutralizing your poison. She didn't give up on you. No, not yet. Unlike yourself, that is." And of course, it would only get worse from there. By 2066, it was all over. The ever-expanding SCP-6789 had consumed almost the entire planet, leaving the surviving Foundation population to seek what remained of refuge on a boat set permanently adrift. All they could do was watch as Mother Nature claimed her vengeance against the human race and took over the Earth, while they planned desperately against her. The beating heart of SCP-6789 developed roots that reached way down into the depths of the Earth, giving it access to life everywhere. Much like the SCP-1000 specimen had said, it seems plausible that this entity was the source of all life on Earth, our one true mother. Of North America, the Foundation wrote, "Following SCP-6789's manifestation in the North American continent, Yellowstone Base has been lost, with all personnel having been evacuated before the spread of SCP-6789 into the Duchy of Wyoming. SCP-2000 remains accessible through direct portals, as SCP-6789 structures do not appear to have penetrated the insides of the underground complex housing it. It is unknown why this occurred, considering SCP-6789's attraction to machinery. Similar to other Foundation sites worldwide, Yellowstone Base has lost its main purpose. The Great Yellowstone Supervolcano, which was once monitored and restrained, has been noted to cease volcanic activity. Most nearby areas previously thought to be inhospitable have been healed and are populated by wild flora and fauna alike. Of Libya, they wrote, "The main difference between pre-SCP-6789 Libya and post was the total destruction of more than 274 industrial complexes, which were once the country's pride. Of note is the total decontamination of the connection between the Libyan Ocean and the mainland. This change has been so extreme that even the Devil's Throat is now clear of all traces of oil contamination. Similarly, the Great Libyan Canal is once again accessible through the European Strait, despite once being blocked by industrial waste for more than 27 years. Of Antarctica, they wrote, "Despite the extreme harsh environment created by the Antarctic Empire, SCP-6789 growths did not struggle with adapting to the conditions. In actuality, most flora megastructures spawned around the country were noted to be the largest on record. Growths were noted to be universally dense regardless of human development, unlike previous trends. The only exception to this rule was the complete destruction of the country's floating capital. It's theorized that this was caused by the city's proximity to the ozone hole." Of Poland, where it all began, they wrote, Being the origin point for the entire anomaly, Poland's entire area is dense with SCP-6789 flora. Despite this, the most compact area is the core itself, the Silesian voidship. There, numerous formations and structures which do not appear to be present anywhere else in the world are located. Examples include trees larger than 100 meters in height, or half-transparent biological domes acting as insulative barriers for the most polluted areas. All such places have been noted to heal much more quickly, with instruments noting that Poland's once poisonous groundwater is now at an almost perfect level of quality. Fish and other water life have since repopulated these waterways, as they did before the Industrial Revolution. Of the remote TUVALU states, they wrote, "The situated noted in the TUVALU states is certainly the most unusual, though not because of what most would expect. Throughout the entire country, almost no plants exist. Large tracts of land consistently possess almost no growths whatsoever. The TUVALU states account for more than 75% of the planet's surface that has yet to succumb to SCP-6789. The only parts of the country that have been affected are the highly populated industrial complexes, though these account for less than 0.00001% of the country's area. Although an attempt was made at establishing a foundation base within TUVALU, all expeditions were met with failure due to resistance from SCP-6789 towards all construction efforts. Further plans were stopped once Foundation Naval Base 01 was designated as humanity's safe haven. As time went on, the dwindling O5 Council dropped off one by one, tried their best to implement some method of fighting back. Some of the many failed attempts included via the usage of Foundation physicists, thaumaturgists, and theologists, attempt to contact the deity located within SCP-6789's core, use Foundation rituals to imprison, reason with, destroy, or otherwise neutralize the entity, and via the usage of a Foundation-developed anomalous disease specific to SCP-6789's floral structures, attempt to reclaim critical Foundation bases and habitation centers, resume previous containment efforts once successful. All that seemed to be left was the nuclear option. Attempt 67. The bottom of the file read, via the usage of Project Lethe and Kolod memetic triggers, revert humanity's state of development to pre-industrial times through the degradation of brain development, rob humanity of thousands of years of scientific, cultural, and technological development, await total destruction of modern infrastructure by SCP-6789, and the release of all individuals from SCP-6789's effect. Apply ENNUI protocol following its success. O5-9's eyes darted to the corner of the screen. He had a new message from O5-1 reading, "Today, Race had detected the following draft for a file being uploaded for approval to SCIPnet. I'll just let you draw the conclusions yourself." O5-9 opened the file draft, and it looked just like the first file all over again. In the end, the Foundation had succeeded, but on some level, it had been a hollow success. Is all they'd done to propagate the loop for another generation just waiting to happen again? Would the heart of Mother Nature someday beat again in pain and rage from the betrayal of her children? Would SCP-6789 ever truly be defeated or contained? O5-9 decided it was best to not worry about it too much. He grabbed his office golf equipment and began teeing up another putt. After all, you never know when you won't get another chance for something like this. Now go check out SCP-001 Ouroboros-Cycle, the full story compilation, and SCP-001 Scarlet King Dust and Blood for more anomalies that could forever change the world as we know it.